Welcome to The Dental Brief, the podcast that delivers actionable insights and expert strategies to help dental professionals like you grow, lead, and succeed. I'm your host, Patrick Shavasty, the president of Omni Premier Marketing. Every week at The Dental Brief, we bring you real conversations from expert speakers that offer expert advice and quick tips that make a real difference in practices nationwide. Whether you're a general dentist or run a multi-location practice, we've got you covered with content that's designed to help you attract more patients, to streamline your operations, reduce headaches in managing your practice, and increase your profitability. If you're ready to elevate your practice, be sure to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and let's dive into today's episode of The Dental Brief. And welcome to another episode of The Dental Brief. Going to be a great subject today. We're going to talk about making your life easier, more productive, doing both at the same time. Excited for it. Let's get right in. Bob Lachance, REVA Global, say hello.
Patrick, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. By the way, the website is revaglobalmedical.com. We'll obviously post that for anyone to check out. But let's go ahead and let's just jump right in. Tell me, how'd you start working with doctors? Let's just get right to that.
Yeah, pretty interesting. So I first started a staffing company. It's a virtual staffing company back in 2014 in a different space, and then went to the medical industry in 2018 out of a need. I have a bunch of doctor friends and dentists, et cetera. And the same thing that kept coming up, they had a lot of bottlenecks in their practices, and we went over their workflow. And, long story short is a lot of different practices, hospitals, dental offices, their workflows are very, very similar from start to finish. So that's how we actually got into it.
Yep. Awesome. So tell me, what are some of the problems that doctors have that you're solving? What are some of the big problems that you see that are over and over and over again that you've got to solve for?
Yeah, no, very good question. So we break every practice down. When we look at a workflow, it's kind of broken down into four we'll call them phases as per this conversation. First phase is before the patient is seen. Second phase is when the patient gets there. Third phase is when the patient is actually being seen. And the fourth phase is when the patient leaves. And there's tasks within all of those different phases. So just to give it a visual, it's kind of broken up. A lot of these workflows are broken up into those four phases or categories, if you will.
Yep. Makes sense to me. So tell me, what's the solution? How are you helping?
Well, you look at each phase and you look at the tasks and you look at the bottlenecks per phase. Phase one is before the patient's seen. And I know a lot of your podcasts, I listen to your podcast, which is fantastic. So you do an incredible job. A lot of it up front is insurance verifications. That's a big challenge you see in any industry. I know there's a lot of softwares out there that are coming up that try to fill that need. There's a lot of staffing challenges, which happens at the beginning, when we talk a lot about staffing and the challenge of staffing in the dental offices, because for some reason since COVID, it feels like people don't want to work anymore. So it's
Right.
a big challenge in some of these practices. So those are the first two things up front that we see as big challenges.
Yep. So let's talk about the solves on them. How do you solve these problems?
Yep. Well, obviously we have a staffing company, so we train our virtual assistants on the roles that are needed in offices. So we have insurance verification, prior authorization trained virtual assistants. We call them MVPs, medical virtual professionals that come in and are already trained, because we know in dental offices, a lot of staff that comes in do not have medical backgrounds. So then when there's a lot of turnover, the biggest challenge, which we all know as small businesses, is actually training and getting someone up and running and doing the job. Whereas, because if there's insurance verification that's wrong, it affects obviously the back end, which is profit for businesses.
Yep. Makes a ton of sense to me. So helping with insurance verifications, now you mentioned you're training them. So you're providing training for them. What if there's something very specific the practice wants to do? Can you incorporate that into your SOPs, into your training?
Yeah, we have what's called a client service manager that oversees our virtual assistant, that works with the practice manager on, their specific, let's say it's whatever system they use in-house, we get up and running immediately.
Yep. So what else can they do besides insurance verifications? What are some big time sucks? Let's just call them what they are. Some big time sucks that they can fill that gap and take those off the plates of practices.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have front desk management, which we see answering phones. A big challenge in different offices are when patients walk up to the front desk, and someone comes in, they're on the phone, they have to hang up the phone. There's a lot of patient care stuff that needs to be taken care of. So we break everything down into clinical and clerical. So when you look at the clinical tasks that need to be done, the clinical tasks should be done by the doctors or the dentist, and the clerical stuff should be done by anybody else. So you have prior authorizations, insurance verifications, documentation, coding, etc. So those are the things that should be done and can be outsourced by a virtual professional.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing that I see in any type of practice that needs patience, right? So obviously every practice needs patience, but there's some that are full, right? Dermatologists can be pretty full. They can be ENTs, they can be full. Some dental specialists can be pretty full, but most general practices are aggressively dental practices are trying to bring in new patients. If you've got a team member that's on the phone for 2 hours arguing with an insurance company or just on hold, and a potential new patient call comes in and it's a mom with 3 kids that just moved to the area that's trying to get the husband, herself, and the 3 kids all scheduled, you just missed out on 5 patients because you're trying to verify insurance. And you might even be trying to get a $35 reimbursement out of an insurance company, right? And you've got a fee-for-service patient waiting for you. So not only this is one of those things where, yeah, they can get the task done, but it can open up a ton of other revenue generating, net income generating areas inside the practice. That's one of the things that I think people need to look at is like, what are busy tasks costing you? Like, what are you missing? What is the cost of opportunity lost involved in that? Are you seeing a lot of doctors that are moving towards virtual assistants, as you call them, MVPs? I think that's a great term, by the way.
Yeah.
That are moving towards, that are using it this way, or are most of them just trying to get from underneath the pile of tasks that aren't getting done?
No, we're seeing the increased cost. You look at every state's different. I know you're in Colorado, I'm in Connecticut, and if you start looking at the cost of minimum wage, let's just use that as an example, it keeps rising and rising, which means that individuals that have 4-year college degrees and are more qualified want more and want more and want more. And there's no end to it because majority of the individuals we work with are small businesses. So our job as business owners is to cut costs and increase revenue. So virtual assistants are a huge MVPs are a huge, huge, huge part of practices in today's day and age. And that's where I kind of see a mix of technology and virtual professionals together in the near future.
Yep, makes total sense to me. Now, there's a million things. There's literally like so many different things. And I think people need to check out your website, which again is REVA globalmedical.com. Check it out. A ton of information on there. But what I want to do is kind of do a little bit of a lightning round here. Let's talk about some of the myths. So some of the reasons, some of the things that the objections that they throw, go, this is never going to work for me. So one of those myths might be HIPAA compliance. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, all of our virtual assistants are HIPAA compliant. They go through training, all of the systems. We have a whole team that does systems checks and works through that. And they work off of the platform of every single practice. So everything's is on your platform and everything's HIPAA compliant the way that it needs to be. So everything in there is taken care of.
So they're tying right into the practice.
Correct.
Computers, right? They're right into their systems.
They log right in. You give them login and password. They go right in your system.
Yep. So let's talk about language barriers, both written and spoken. Tell me about the myths that people often see there that just aren't true.
Yeah. Our virtual professionals are all out of the Philippines, and English is one of their primary languages there. So they learn it in school. They're brought up from when they're born all the way up with the English language. So we get that question a lot, and they're full fluent English.
Yep. Yeah. So written, spoken, it's right on par, right?
Yeah. No. And I don't know if you noticed, I got off the phone with one of the hospitals, and majority of the individuals that they're hiring right now are from Philippines. So it's pretty interesting how, and these are all in person. There's a whole, business that comes over here and places Philippine workers here in the United States.
Right. Yeah, it's huge. Most people in the Philippines are also college educated, correct?
They are. Our VAs are 4-year college educated, which is fantastic.
Right. So it's not entry level. And a lot of them have actual backgrounds in medical and dental, don't they?
Yeah. 100%. Yep.
Talk about the life for them, right? So here, one of the things is, we have this issue where practices are constantly getting squeezed. we've had shortages. We still have shortages in almost every state and city where they can't get enough employees. I see it as because the employees aren't getting paid enough. That's a bad argument in forums online, a Facebook group, to say pay your people more money and they'll stay. A lot of people don't like that. I think it's true. One of the things that I see that can be done in practice is if, let's say you need a team, let's say you need 7 team members for your practice to run, right? You're a dental practice and you have a couple assistants, hygienist, and then you have people in the front end helping you with insurance verification, calling patient back, that sort of thing. And you can fill those with someone in the Philippines who you pay, what's a good number?
So we keep it standard at $12 an hour.
$12 an hour, as opposed to paying someone $22 or $23 an hour. That actually frees up resources that you can pay your in-house team members more money with, right?
Correct. And that's
right.
what we see often.
Yeah. Or you can give them more time off, right? So it's a better life for your team members that are there, right? They're going to want to stick around. Everybody knows the heartache and the cost involved with hiring someone and having them leave 3-4 months later because they get paid $2 an hour more somewhere else. What if you could pay them the extra $2 or $3? They'd probably stay. At least that's how I see it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, we see a lot of burnout. To your point, there is a lot of burnout in that industry because what we find is they're wearing 3, 4, 5 different hats and they're getting pulled in all these directions. And they can't end their day a lot of times. Even their day should be 9 to 5. It doesn't end till 9 to sometimes 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and that creates all that burnout. So if you do, to your point, when you do outsource those things like insurance verifications, what they do is it actually saves and prevents from burnout because you're sitting on the phone. Being on the phone all day long is very, very tiring. It beats you up.
Yeah, that's hard. Yeah, makes total sense to me. So to learn more, one more time, the website is revaglobalmedical.com. I highly encourage you to check with Bob and his team. Getting going with having some extra help in your practice at reasonable cost is a no-brainer. In my opinion, it's one of the easiest, fastest, and even best ways to scale your practice. So I'm obviously a big believer in it. Bob, thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dental Brief. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a colleague who could benefit. We're here to help dental professionals like you stay ahead of the curve, one brief episode at a time. You can find more episodes and resources at thedentalbrief.com. You can also join the Growth-Minded Dentist community on Facebook. Links are in the description. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and thanks for being part of the Dental Brief community.